earlier this month, a hacker successfully siphoned $114 million in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Tron from a Poloniex hot wallet. Poloniex wasn't the only centralized exchange, or CEX, that had a rough November. And just the last week, Kraken, Bittrex, and Binance all had a tough time. Kraken, the third largest CEX by volume, was sued by the good people at the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC. I should say sued again, because Kraken was already targeted by SEC employees, which resulted in Kraken earlier this year paying $30 million in fines and ending staking services for U.S. customers. On to Bittrex.
Here today, here tomorrow. Bittrex Global.
Well, apparently not, because UK-based Bittrex Global announced that it will cease operations on December 4th. It's speculated that increased pressure from regulators was a main impetus. Indeed, earlier this year, the US arm of Bittrex closed its operations after it paid a $24 million fine to the SEC. And Binance, the world's largest CEX, announced that it will pay a $4.3 billion fine and that Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, will step down as CEO and plead guilty to a felony charge.
We're here today to announce the Treasury Department's historic action, the largest enforcement action in Treasury's history against Binance.
Binance, at least the Binance of 5 months ago, put forth that the SEC seeks a near eradication of our industry.
A crypto war is coming between regulators and these crypto exchanges. We know that the chairman of the SEC, Gary Gensler, isn't giving up his fight.
It's almost as if this war on sexes was being orchestrated. Wait, what's that? We have some new information? Okay, let's roll it. Gary, it's Augustin at the BIS. Oh, Augustin, how's the family? We're good, thanks. Right. Listen, it'd be tough to outright ban crypto all over the world. What I think we could do, though, is to squeeze the on and off ramps between crypto and legacy financial systems we control. What do you say? Target the sexes? Yes, Gary, my boy, target the sexes. Well, gee, that sounds like fun. I'll see what I can do. A bit of satire, but likely not too far off from what's been motivating Gensler and his ilk to gain more power and influence for themselves and their outfit, and to protect the legacy institutions, including central bank-issued fiat. Of course, earlier this year, these outfits have targeted Coinbase, Library, Ripple, and others. Hell, even Wallet of Satoshi, a Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet, just announced it would no longer support users based in the political boundaries of the USSA. And as this newsreel was being put together, another CEX, HTX, was hacked. All that said, it seems clear that the heyday of CEXs, and really any crypto entity that has a centralized structure, is over. Thanks to the ongoing harassment by the SEC and others, the remaining centralized crypto options will likely become even more squeezed, thus demanding from their customers even greater KYC requirements and disclosure of the source of their funds. And it's likely they'll stop supporting any crypto network that has any vestiges of inbuilt privacy. What a nightmare. Well, only on its face. The flip side is that a new dawn is here. In their infinite wisdom, regulators have been focused on trying to control crypto, but as any sound economist will tell you, they've overlooked the unintended consequences.
When I teach Econ 101, I tell my students on the first day, intentions are not results.
The unintended consequences of all the lawsuits and hacking of CEXs from malicious actors has incentivized new models of operation that are much more censorship resistant, and it has underscored the importance in holding one's own private keys.
Do what Satoshi told you, which is be your own bank.
More folks will turn to decentralized options, including decentralized exchanges or DEXs like Thorchain and Maya Protocol, both of which have, unsurprisingly, seen tremendous uptake recently, and both of which are continuing to add functionality.
Who the hell would want to use these kind of closed-off red tape fuckeries that are centralized exchanges when you can just instantaneously and quickly and efficiently just get what you want?
This is not a game. This is the future of your children. Whatever you do, whatever you work on, whether your children will be able to spend that freely, privately, unilaterally, without overreach, that depends on us today. This is a war. This is a revolution. This is the war of the century.
As Bitcoin Babe so astutely put it, wasn't self-custody and decentralization the point? Indeed, the future is emerging. The future is bright.
It's pretty awesome, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, right on there. I especially liked the sign off with One Time's Morgan Freeman video. That's so amazing that One Time was able to get Morgan Freeman to make a Dash video. How are you all this morning?
Pretty cheap too, I think.
Right? Yeah. Well, today
I'm doing
we
fantastic now that
I have that sizzle reel from Pete to pump us up. So shout out to Pete for always getting us kind of in the right frame of mind for this.
Sizzle reel. That's a word I've never heard. I'd like to hold on to that. Sizzle reel. Well, today we're speaking with Marina and Joël in a way that's, I guess, somewhat shifted from when we scheduled this show. Because when we scheduled this show, these two were seeking donations to start a month's worth of work on a particular proposal. And as I understand it, that donation goal has already been met as of a few days ago. Is that right?
Yes, it is. We reached our donation goal thanks to all the generous donors for the Dash Growth pre-proposal and crowdfund. And now we're on to the regular proposal cycle. So when we went for this, of course, I obviously believed in it, but there's always that little bit of nerve of like, well, I don't know, are people going to donate? Is it around the holidays? No one's really crowdfunded stuff with Dash before, and it's kind of a big ask for people who are used to going through the Treasury. And I was obviously just a little nervous, but everything turned out great. So I'm really happy where we are at, and really excited.
Okay, so then that is a big shift. So to get started, I would like you all to give a sort of, I guess, backstory. Where is this effort coming from? How long have you been thinking about it? Why have the two of you picked each other? What's the story here?
Yeah, so I'll start from my part, and then Marina can go into her involvement with Dash. So in 2016, when Bitcoin started to have issues, I started to seriously consider alternatives. And then Dash, of course, jumped out as the only viable way for me to continue to live fiat free at the time. And when you get into Dash, then it's like, well, how do I get paid in Dash? And then it's just like, what work is available? And then it just ended up being a cycle of, oh, there's this new proposal called Dash Force that's trying to do some like online comments and other things like that. Let me try that out. Let me get involved, do whatever I can, et cetera, et cetera. And that kind of lasted until the end of 2019. And after that, I kind of took a step back and decided to explore the rest of the crypto world. I started my own channel and podcast and things like that, and just decided to sort of explore what else is there out there to kind of learn, because I'd been this Dash only rabbit hole for a very long time. And during this whole time, pretty much starting with that period, the amount of marketing and promotion and stuff for Dash as a whole went significantly down. There was significantly less during this period of time. And it's kind of gone on and on until we have the present day, where we don't even have anyone banning the Twitter account right now. It's basically at, random community things only, like great things, like obviously the Incubator is doing a great job with this. But then also, the Dash community Twitter account and just some other things. And during this time, people have been let's be honest, just asking me like, hey, when are you going to do something about this? Why don't you come back and do this? Oh, I love your threads on that. I love this. Why don't you go this? And then Dash needs more marketing. No one knows what's going on. And it always been sort of like, well, kind of like I'm, the old action movie. I'm retired, that was a long time ago. And just like trying to coax me out of retirement to sort of do this stuff. And then I was kind of collectively bullied into starting the Dash Marketing Hub to sort of have like an incubator style way of like doing little tasks for marketing tasks. And then over we did some cool stuff during, especially making tons and tons of Dash Direct related promotional content during that time. And towards the end, we also had a successful marketing campaign, like an ad campaign. But in the whole, it ended up being where I think that people really just wanted more and effective marketing for Dash and to pay for that. And I ended up getting sort of sucked into this game of, well, let me create this structure and play by these rules that I've set for myself, because I think that people want that. Allow the community to come and get paid to do marketing stuff, and then just crickets. And then, oh, does someone want to do this task? Crickets. And then kind of recruit, try to get people to do it, and then crickets. And then eventually I sort of realized that this is a kind of structure that is fun to have on the side, but what people really want is just people to do the job, right? People to come in and actually, make this kind of stuff happen, actually do good work, and like professionals, not just provide another avenue for this to potentially be funded if it turns out well someday. So that's the kind of big thought cycle. I've been thinking a lot about what I personally have missed out on in the past, what Dash has missed out on in the past, what all of crypto, and including like all of like even beyond that, just kind of thinking for a long time, a lot of like long plane flights. And I went internationally a couple times this year, just the long plane flight, just sitting there, just like writing down my thoughts, seeing where this would go. And finally, I think first off, I think there's a great opportunity to actually do something meaningful that I can get behind. But also I kind of came to some epiphanies of how to do these things better and kind of come, kind of go past this. And I was very, I worked with Marina when I was doing the marketing hub, doing stuff for the marketing hub, and she was working for Dashcore Group. And it was one of the only times where I've had a really good working experience with Dashcore Group over the years. It was like, oh, everything works out. Oh, like we're helping each other. This is great. And so I thought this is definitely someone I would want to help in this undertaking to kind of get everything going again. So that's where we are right now.
Okay, and then from your side of things, Marina, does that pretty much cover things, or do you have anything to add?
I would just add that after working at DCG for 1.5 years or so, I joined in April, like a year ago. No, not a year. Oh, I just can't even remember when I joined it. But after working at DCG for some time, I just realized that Dash needs a separate marketing entity with separate decision makers, with separate budget, and with no guidance from DCG, because these guys are focusing on tech, and tech is what drives DCG forward, not marketing. That's why I'm really happy to work with Joel, because this guy has very deep knowledge of crypto, very deep knowledge of crypto players, and I think we suit each other like professionals in that way. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay. So before we move on, will one or both of you specify just what it is we're talking about when we say marketing? Because this is a word that gets thrown around a lot. It's been applied to a myriad different activities. So when you all say marketing, paint us a specific picture of what you're talking about.
Yes, it's so. Oh, sorry, Ryan. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, and feel free to also kind of dispel the idea that it is marketing if you'd like, because the name of the group that you've chosen is Dash Growth, which doesn't really say marketing at all. But yeah, where does marketing fit in, and where does growth and partnerships fit in?
Yeah, so Dash, so as far as marketing is such a huge, it's such a huge spectrum of things that, one could say a good chunk of what the Incubator does is marketing because of the show, because of all the stuff that happened, the Twitter account, everything like that. But it's to call the Incubator a marketing arm would be little. I don't know if that's something you guys would want to subscribe to.
I sure hope.
But there's two things. First off, the proposal is not purely for marketing; it's for marketing and business development, because both of those things are basically not being fulfilled in any professional capacity with Dash right now. As I mentioned before, like the Twitter account, the website, the YouTube channel, other than the every 2 week sprints, all that stuff is just being like left. There's nothing going on there. But also,
So
what people might not
relevant to that, are you
Yes.
talking about you want and are going to get access to those, or those we should all
Yes.
just basically kiss them goodbye and you're going to do your efforts will be with different accounts?
The first, all the whatever the official channels for Dash have been just kind of left by the wayside. And I've spoken with a lot of current Dash Core group people, especially Sam, Quantum Explorer, and it's basically their capacity level is purely at development right now, with a very couple little things difference. So that's number one, is basically to start to get rid of the no one's home impression and actually start leveraging some of those assets we have to make it Dash not look like a Dash product. Number
And
two,
now,
though,
sorry to, I'm just going to have so many questions for you here because this is a road that I myself have traveled down in the past to some degree. So say you were publishing things on this Dash.org YouTube channel, which is, as you said, the longest running Dash related YouTube channel. I'm guessing that it would not be super techie content because that's not what the kind of stuff that I've seen you produce. And I hope that's not what you intend to produce. So then how do you deal with the fact that if you are lucky enough to get any new subscribers based on your content there, what are they going to do when this 2-week sprint review comes around and they get pinged because they've subscribed and, God hope, subscribed for notifications also. And this completely indecipherable hour-long, forgive me, shit show in their eyes shows up in their notifications. How can you possibly reconcile that with them and keep them as an avid subscriber?
Well, let's first off contrast. I mean, there's a million different questions that have to be answered all over there. But let's just start for right now. First off, we're talking about subscribers that already don't exist. And the idea of gaining subscribers is already a plus. Like we're talking about the sprint reviews get just a few people watching. The Dash YouTube channel, I mean, if you look through its history, has produced mostly not that content. So historical subscribers, mostly things like that, has been mostly the kind of stuff that I would hope to bring to the channel to kind of resurrect that. And as any general purpose updates channel needs a diversity of content, right? They're in maybe short form videos, updates about the project, kind of simple how-to guides, basically all that kind of stuff. And sure, every once in a while you might hit this, here we go, this different kind of much more technical update kind of thing and be like, you know what, that's not for me, I'm clicking away. But the rest of the content, of course, is great. And some of these people who do subscribe might be like, oh, I'm a XYZ developer and I got into Dash because of, I want digital cash for whatever. I understand this. Or some people may be like, I don't understand that. But I think it's very kind of, I highly doubt there will be a majority of people that will consume the now majority of content on this channel and enjoy it and be directed to become Dash users and whatever else in other ways. And then when they hit a development update, they'll throw their hands up in rage and say, this is not what I'm here for. This is obscene. I'm going to sell my Dash, delete my wallet, and never see you guys again. Unfollowed. That probably won't happen. And so at least I'm betting it won't happen. But if it does, I'm sure we'll have the ability to pivot.
Okay, fair enough. So then before I had asked that question, you were just about to get to the second point of describing to us what precisely is marketing, or just your efforts that we're talking about. You had just addressed DCG's abandoned channels.
Yes, the possibly more important abandonment, I should say. And I shouldn't say this abandonment as in a conscious decision to just shirk on duties. Or we're talking about Dash Core Group has had funding cuts due to, treasury performance. And because of that, there's no one at the helm right now, as far as I know, for explicitly tasked with business development. Now, I believe there might be some people in Dash Core Group who do still occasionally perform these kinds of functions, but basically talking to partners, onboarding new partners, et cetera, et cetera. So, for example, if you have, let's just say Ledger or something wants to create a new product, and they're like, hey, just so you know, we're doing this. What are you guys up to with your new dev updates? What can we do about this? And no one answers the email. They're like, oh, Dash is a dead coin. Delist. Same thing with any number of different wallets, service providers, things like that. Not having someone talking to these people is critical. That's worse than the just no tweets coming out problem. It's so that's something that I've honestly been doing a whole lot of this on a volunteer basis, just because it breaks my heart to just say, sorry, but people come to me and ask, hey, what's going on with Dash? And then I hook them up with this, tell them that, whatever, give some biz dev kind of assistance. And in a very limited role at the very end of the marketing hub reign, we helped onboard Spritz Finance and the Maya protocol with of course, the developmental assistance of the Incubator, which has been super valuable in that. And as we're seeing, like the Maya protocol in particular is one of the largest sources of, I guess, excitement and new energy in the Dash ecosystem today as a result. And I recently did for my own channel an interview with all the other people like me who are living on crypto all over the world that I was able to find. And all the Dash people leverage Spritz Finance for a significant chunk of their living on Dash ability. And so I think that this is something that we can really commit to doing well and better. I think it's almost more critical. And if you look in the pre-proposal / crowdfund, there's a sort of conditional thing of like, if we don't reach our donation goal, then we'll just refund everyone. If we do reach our donation goal, but the treasury proposal doesn't go through, we'll repurpose those funds for a 6-month part-time business development thing, because that's much more critical. And now that we have this money, even let's just say the community, the Masters, everyone doesn't really care for marketing, or at least not from this direction, but at least someone's got to be answering the metaphorical phone on, is Dash a dead project or not? And someone should be able to spend a few hours a week talking to new partners. Hey, you should add Dash to this. Hey, I noticed you take 6 confirmations for Dash. Can we get it to 0 because of instant send? All that kind of thing. So those are those 2 big things. And to answer the final, and I'm sorry for just going on like an 8-minute rant here, but to answer all these different questions about like what is marketing, marketing is so many different things, but there's a reason for the growth term, the Dash growth. It comes not only because I think it encompasses like marketing, like growing the project that way, but also biz dev, growing the project that way. But also the big thing that I'm trying to do differently from just about just about every marketing initiative in the past is approach this from a growth marketing perspective, which again, also within the industry has a little bit more nuance, and like there's some disagreement over what is what. But a growth marketing is basically pursuing marketing to grow a business or project. And in order to have that growth, you need to measure the growth. And so basically that's the big thing I'm trying to do differently, is try to find ways where we can actually put a duff sign, so to speak, on exactly what we're spending on this, but also what we're getting in return. And not just, we did marketing and it's great, people love it, more people talk about Dash, kind of, we can see it, and that's great. But then what next? Is this making the Dash price go up? Is this getting new Dash users? Are more transactions hitting the network as a result? All these kinds of things. And it's a very tricky proposition with a purely decentralized network, but I do think we can kind of hit on a few big sources of metrics and make this thing work.
And so that jumps kind of forward, which is fine, to one of my questions, which is how can any DFO, basically, how can we ever have any reason to believe that the work that any DFO does is causing anybody to purchase more Dash than they would otherwise if no DFOs are selling Dash? Like if none of them have a buy Dash here with your credit card on their website so that they can track sales that month with the efforts they made that month and see if there's any correlation or not. What are your plans to gauge whether anything you do actually causes anyone to buy more Dash?
Yes. So the buying Dash is maybe a secondary or even tertiary metric. And that's something that can be very fickle of people buying, because that could be a big speculative boom. People buy in, people then sell. Every buyer has a seller, etc. The thing that Dash is meant to do, right? And in all this, we're trying to get more people using Dash, specifically as digital cash. But if, with evolution and other things, maybe it's other things. But the big thing is we have to get more Dash users using Dash for what it was meant to do. Otherwise, if we're not going to do that, we need to redefine what Dash is, because Dash is digital cash. It's all our efforts, all our years of developmental work have been on making a secure, instant payment network and monetary system, and has around user experience, improving user experience for that. And so if we're going to try to promote Dash as any other metric than more Dash users, we probably have to completely reevaluate the entirety of the project and not just a marketing approach. So all that to say, the kinds of stats that we will track are user-based stats. And of course, Dash this is where it gets tricky, but I still think doable, is Dash is a natural resource almost. We're in slightly uncharted territory because crypto is a new thing. It hasn't existed for more than 15 years. And with any centralized company out there, what you can be absolutely sure of is how many users you have. Maybe not absolutely, but usually you say how many signups you have here, how many accounts, how many this. That's very doable. What you can't have necessarily with Dash is that perfectly, because you can, but then transactions could be faked and other stuff like that. But so what we can do is, again, that's part of the learning from the rest of the world, is like, how do we actually judge that we're getting new Dash users? Well, what if we market Dash for specific services, and then when those services and apps grow, they show those metrics, which they do have control over. Then those metrics tell us, well, we have a good idea that this is an actual Dash user. So for example, as an example on all this, I am a Dash user. Again, it's great to have a great starting point, yes, of where this kind of comes from. But so imagine this. If I use the Dash mobile wallet, the official one, because it's great. So I downloaded the Dash wallet. That's something you can track. I have signed up for Bitrefill because Bitrefill is a fantastic way to live off of crypto, especially Dash, because the Dash transactions are instant. I have used Spritz Finance. I also use Floor Wallet to do Maya protocol based things like provide liquidity and trade and things like that. And I'm sure there's a few other services that could be kind of lumped into that. But the point is there's 3, 4, 5 different services that we can all say, I downloaded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I wouldn't really be a Dash user. Anyone can get someone to just download a wallet one time and forget about it. But once you start to sign up for all these services, and the way this works in the real world, right? Not saying the crypto isn't real, but it's a different, newer thing. The way this works in the quote real world is, in order to not have, companies would lose money if these metrics were gamed. If they were paying out referral bonuses to people who got them fake users, those companies would go bankrupt because they'd be paying for nothing, for something that doesn't get them value back. And so, for example, a lot of these referral links like Spritz Finance and bit refill and stuff like that, they only pay once the user's actually been a user to a certain monetary threshold. Like, for example, once they spend their first $50 on Spritz, Spritz would match you with $50, etc. And so once you have all that, you can then say, okay, we ran Dash specific ads and campaigns and things with this, and we have traced from these campaigns sources to like a referral code, to this many bit refill signups, which actually paid, which actually followed through and bought something. This many Spritz Finance users, which actually did this. This many Dash Wallet downloads, this many, et cetera, et cetera. And then you start to stitch together that picture. And we said, we definitely got new users for let's just say 5 services. Once we get 5 services on board through this, and they've all clearly anti-spammed themselves by sending money to these services or whatever it is, then we can consider that is very, very likely to be a Dash user, because it would be very strange, and we'd have to reevaluate this again if the network traffic, because we also have the blockchain to look at. If the network traffic does not support this, if all of a sudden we have this massive amount of new users on all these partner services, but for some reason they all start using Litecoin or whatever else instead of Dash, that would be a big problem when we're trying to message in a Dash way that happens. And that's something else to adjust. But then again, we see, is this going up on here? Do we have partner metrics? So basically, to recap this whole thing in like a sentence, the way we can measure Dash user growth is through the apps and services whereby people will likely use Dash.
All right. Next question is for Marina. I got a sense from your opening comments that you ended up being asked or falling into a role at DCG that was different from the role you thought you would perform when you took the job. Is that an accurate thing to say?
Not really.
Please.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my main question is, what is it that you hope to do, and what do you think was going wrong in terms of your role and abilities at DCG versus what was going right there?
Well, that's a tricky question, but I'll be frank with you, Amanda. I expected it would be easier. I remember our first call a year and a half ago when I was like surrounded by rose petals and pink ponies, and I was like, "Oh,
you were on my first call.
We're gonna do marketing in the DCG, and that's cool." I was kind of naive because what surprised me in a bad sense is that all processes in DCG were incredibly slow. I mentioned this on the forum. Like, it took several months to consider new improvements, new ideas, especially when it came to budget allocations, various paid activities, and software subscriptions. For instance, my marketing strategy for EVO wasn't even considered. Other activities such as
wasn't
press
considered by
releases.
whom? How could that be? Like, who is the chief poobah who did not consider your ideas?
I'm not gonna blame anyone, but the whole process of aligning some strategy, of aligning some new idea and their implementation was really hard because it was filtered by board members such as Sam, such as Ernesto, and if together with Ernesto, it was kind of easy because we were on the same page and we understood what we needed to do for marketing needs. The rest of board members, they were not really involved into marketing. And when I was proposing some things regarding the EVO launch, it was it was like neglected. I'm not gonna say something bad about DCG, but I felt like it was some sort of unwillingness to get involved into marketing, because building and delivering and building and delivering, it was the priority number one at DCG. Um,
So what was your
so
job? I mean, as
uh,
I understand it, you weren't even running the Twitter account, which really surprised me. So why weren't you running the Twitter account, which seems really basic?
well,
And what was your job?
yeah, okay. Before I answer that, let me share a short story about DashPay account on Twitter. As you may know, like DCG holds access to it, and after Arden left, DCG decided to revive it and post things there on a regular basis, which was cool. Basically, we only had one decision maker for marketing decisions when Arden left, and it was Ernesto. And Ernesto and I worked together, but not from the very beginning. In the first couple of months, I was part of the infra team and worked with Strophy. And back then, we were at the stage where we needed to determine my scope of responsibilities. And only in June did DCG decide to place me under Ernesto's guidance. And we decided that I would take over only technical tweets related to Evo, protocol updates, blog post announcements, and AMAs. And the rest would be delegated to the Venezuelan community, which worked closely with Ernesto. And that sounded reasonable back then. And that allowed me to focus more on marketing strategy, organizing AMAs, building relationships with other organizations within the CG. So we adhered to that plan, but I and other team members started noticing many inconsistencies in posts because they were written in broken English, they were out of context, and some of them were like really bad, to be honest. And we detected and deleted them, and then explained to the Venezuelan guys that such kinds of posts are inappropriate, and that worked for some reason. And even some DCG members from the tech team began to proofread posts before going live. And so I cannot say that no measures were taken. We worked a lot and put a lot of effort into maintaining the DashPay account. And it was really cool. For example, with a monthly average of 115 tweets as of like May 2023, we achieved a monthly average of 430,000 impressions. But that number began to drop. But that's not a story. In general, well, I thought I would be more focused on marketing, like some things that Joel was mentioning before, like obtaining new users, tracking their activities, providing new ad campaigns, and doing all that complex marketing stuff. But instead, all my scope of responsibility boiled down to creating some AMAs, which were, to be honest, they were not so effective as I thought. Well, I hope I answered your question.
All right, thank you. So my next question is likely for Joël, and it has to do with the funding structure that I heard you speak about. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago that you asked Pete to be interviewed on the Digital Cash Network podcast. And I want to just read from a comment you made on that episode. You started talking about the likes of Bitcoin Magazine and Gemini as organizations that do heavy advertising for Bitcoin, who obviously aren't compensated for any kind of Bitcoin treasury. And you went on to say that, quote, making money is a fantastic motivator and it's great for growth. I think that protocol level development probably needs to be funded by the treasury. As for everything else, like growing and things like that, maybe that can be done through private interests. And then a bit later, you spoke about how you thought that the ideal model for any non-protocol level funding would be like a half and half system, where you get donations for half of your needs and then go to the treasury for the other half. And so given these two comments, like just the purely private company model and the half and half system, why have you not chosen to pursue either of those in terms of funding?
Well, I clearly have chosen to pursue the hybrid model based on the fact that we raised 350 Dash from voluntary donations coming out. Let me give the big picture on where that idea comes from as far as that. So it's something that I've done a lot of soul searching on in the past few years, but especially the last 6 months or so, is obviously I got really excited when I heard about Bitcoin in 2012, 2013, and did everything I could, close my bank account. I'm going to just live all off of this stuff. And then obviously was heartbroken when it didn't work for digital cash anymore at the end of 2016, which is a lot sooner than I guess a lot of other people ended up starting to move away. And so then my idea, I heard about this fantastic thing called the DAO, the Dash DAO, and it lets you not have these problems. And then I saw the January 2016 proposal from Evan that says, should we scale on chain or not? And then written in stone right there, we have our way forward. We don't have to worry about this kind of thing. And so for a while, I was admittedly a DAO maximalist a little bit, meaning if I've posted the DAO or GTFO phrase a lot of different times over the years. And obviously, as Dash is the oldest DAO right now, and it's the, kind of the standard bearer, this is definitely something where I went all in on Dash, did a whole bunch of stuff, and just say, this is going to work out. And I have to say, since, my involvement, since 2017 or whatever, everyone knows that there is some sort of a performance slippage of Dash as a whole that is kind of, a lot of people are struggling to explain it completely. There's a million theories. There's a bunch of things we can be very comfortably sure about have something to do with it. But the whole thing is, I thought this DAO thing was just the way to go. That why are these non-DAO coins that don't have a treasury, which is supposed to be a great thing, right? Why are they doing so well compared to Dash? And I've thought a lot about that, because the original idea of not having protocol development funding and not having the ability to explicitly make decisions are what hurt Bitcoin. And now we're seeing Ethereum as well as choosing to not scale on chain. And we're seeing that exact same thing. And so obviously the DAO is the solution to this, but then there's another problem caused by the DAO, clearly, or at least Dash's implementation. So that caused me to go look back and say, who else is doing what? How is everything else being done? And then I have a lot of friends in the Bitcoin Cash community, and they have not one, but 4 different core protocol implementation teams. And they don't have any treasury. It's all crowdfunded through this thing called Flipstarter, which is basically just a crowdfund that if at a certain time period, if it's not reached, it automatically refunds the donations. Whereas when I was asking people to do that, I was counting on having to manually refund donations if we didn't hit our goal. But that's kind of neither here nor there. The point is, I found that the thing that Dash does well with the treasury, the treasury, it's supposed to benefit everyone, and it comes from everyone. And the problem is it softens the connection between people's decision making and the consequences, good or bad, of those actions. The connection is a lot less. Like, I'm not going to vote this time, or I voted for this proposal. And then we've seen a lot of lack of performance as a whole. And so I guess the idea is to try to experiment. Again, this is just like, the scientific method. You come up with a hypothesis first, and then you test and things like that. Anything comes with an idea. I have an idea that by interjecting some extra like direct connection to the money rather than, well, the whole network kind of voted and then, that guy might have voted, but like whatever. It's by adding that direct connection back in, I want to see what happens. And so the idea is crowdfund this first element, this first month, and then go to regular proposal thing and see what did the first month's funding actually do as far as the performance. I want to see what happens, because a lot of times you have people in the DAO just, log in, vote for whatever, don't vote, comment, whatever. A lot of disinterest, and Quantum has talked a lot about like voter apathy as a problem. And it's to where it's very difficult to get some proposals even passed at all. Not if they're unpopular, which is that's a completely different thing. But the threshold with the number of votes required by the network as a minimum to get anything passed it's by a very small margin, to where a very small whale or whatever, like a 10, 20 vote whale or whatever, could potentially defund a lot of proposals that the network otherwise overwhelmingly supports because of this. And so I got to think, how do I cure this apathy? Well, what if I put people's skin in the game? And so there's 350 Dash worth of not community money, individuals' money, skin in the game. These are people that have decided, you know what, I could do anything I want with this money. I don't have to be thinking about how when a DAO proposal is funded, then that money that could have been just not created does inflate my value, and therefore my money might be worth a little bit less in the future. All that thinking, that abstraction is gone. They gave me their money.
And how many people are behind that 350 Dash?
I'm not exactly sure 100%. There have been a few who have come forward and said, this is me. There's been one in particular that I know of that explicitly requested to not be made public. And there's a few other transactions. So I'll have to get together a little spreadsheet of like, let's see who we have here. But one of the perks, of course, is being shouted out on, monthly Dash podcasts and stuff. But I guess the point is, there's these people who now have a very vested interest in at least paying attention to what I'm doing, right? And at this point, now they could say, hey, I have a great idea. You should do this differently. Or, you know what? I'm just not seeing the results from this. And I can trust that it's not just, although I watch comments all over the internet, I could trust that this is someone who has the best interests of the actual proposal at heart, because they certifiably gave their money, not just someone in Dash's money or tangentially their money. They gave their money to me. So they actually care about this being a success. And that's the feedback I want. And I want to have that kind of keeping North Star going. Again, no one's done this before, right? As far as I know, almost nothing has been crowdfunded purely in Dash since the 2017 era, when the Treasury really started to boom. And so I'm trying something different. And in the future, so this is just to like, for Marina and I to keep the lights on, to just make sure there's someone home, get the most we can out of all the current resources that are in the Dash ecosystem to grow it. But in the case of explicit ad campaigns and things like that, I'm going to try that model as well. So, and the thing that is interesting about this is we've had all kinds of like, well, let's market this. Oh, I don't care about that. There's been a lot of that kind of stuff. I really like the idea of putting people's like opinions to the test and saying, okay, what you think we should market to the Russian community, let's say, because they're a large community in Dash, surprisingly large, maybe to some people. And they also have very different legal restrictions around their usage of Dash. And so you can't just market, hey, get Dash Direct or Spread. No, that's not going to work at all. So, but if the Russian community feels very strongly about having a tailored campaign, they can crowdfund half and work with me, and I will put in a proposal for a matching grant for that. So let's just say $10,000. I will then put in a proposal for the equivalent amount of Dash, And then now, not only have they proved that someone cares, prove that there's market demand for this, not just let's like feel around in the dark and just say, who should we throw marketing at with Dash? Oh, the numbers say this, whatever. But we actually have market demand for this. And so the risk also gets carried by the people who it's easy to just say, I think you should do this. Let's market more to Venezuela. Let's do this. And we don't really know if there's actual demand for it. And also to form that kind of interested partnership with members of the Russian community, for example, because if they've given their money, they're going to be wanting this to succeed. And if something doesn't go well, they're going to be interested parties who can say, this isn't working, that won't work this way, let's do this, or we're having actual partners. But the greater part from that is I hope that there will be lots of crowdfunds like this in the future, because there's a possibility, obviously, for treasury restriction purposes, or just because the DAO as a whole doesn't see the value in it, where they crowdfund the first half, and then the second half, the matching grant does not go through. But now they still have the first half, and they don't have to say, if there is a good idea in the DAO, it doesn't have to be shot down because some astronauts didn't vote for it or weren't interested enough to vote in time. The idea can still proceed and succeed or fail on its own merits. And then let's just in this hypothetical for the Russian community, the DAO as a whole, which is too, let's say, Western centered, says, now why are we going to spend money advertising to a country where you can't even use Dash as a peer-to-peer currency, or you get in legal trouble? That's no good. I don't care if the Russians crowdfunded this half. We're not going to fund it. And then, okay, but then the Russian community has this crowdfund. Now they actually launch a smaller scope, but still a campaign. It gets implemented and it shows to be a great success. And then, oh, guess what? They took that risk of their own self, just like an entrepreneur does in an entrepreneurial fashion. They took the risk, and if it works out, then they can go again, be like, you were wrong the first time. We proved it to you. You can match our grant the second time we try. Or what if the DAO never matches the grant? If it's effective, it might become a sustainable thing. And at least by encouraging people to start it like this, it's showing people that it's getting people to actually think about their ideas, care about their ideas, but get something moving to where even if you get a no from the network, from the DAO, you still have a yes to go on for a smaller capacity. And so that's kind of the thing I'm hoping to pursue. One little extra tidbit about that. Obviously donations are, one thing, but I hope that a lot of this kind of thing could be viewed in the future as an investment, not just a donation. And I would love there to be models that, for example, it's not just they take money from community donations to fund operations, but that they actually bring money back. So, for example, there is a bounty by the Thorchain community, not my protocol currently, but Thorchain, for anyone who onboards a new business or service, kind of like the Dash Marketing Hub integrations bounty, which is still active, by the way. People can still go and onboard new services and users to Dash and get paid a little amount for that. But there's a Thorchain amount, right? There's a Thorchain bounty. So mostly if there's a wallet or service that does not support Thorchain or the Maya protocol for decentralized swaps, which are basically sister protocols, it's hard to convince them to only onboard Maya, which has fewer chains than Thorchain. It's more often than not a 2-for-1 deal, right? So what if, for example, Dash Growth onboards a new wallet or service to Thorchain and Maya together, and then claims the Thorchain bounty, he probably paid in Rune, swaps that for Dash, and now has exogenous income, right? Now has a something to offset both, treasury and donations or whatever. Now has some actual revenue from that. And
I would think that would be exceedingly popular.
That would be great. Now, of course, the problem with trying to do with the current problem, with the current limitation, I should say, with official channels like the Dash website, the Dash Twitter account, but also the Dash wallet and things like that, is I think it's been pretty clear that first off, we have to work with Dash Core Group because they handle like the development part of this kind of thing. But I think they made it pretty clear that they do not want to pursue any kind of a revenue growth model for themselves. So for example, built into the Maya protocol and Thorchain is a functionality for a front end to take an affiliate fee for all swaps. So when you go to Thor wallet, any fees you pay for a transaction for a swap, most of that goes to the network, but some of it goes to the actual website you did it from, or El Dorado, or whatever other thing.
Mm-hmm.
You could do that in the Dash wallet, and Maya-based swaps are coming to the Dash mobile wallet. Brian's been working on that, and I give a little round of applause for Brian, because Brian Foster has been doing some great work on the whole mobile team lately, and other things that I'm not even aware of. But they have elected to not have a affiliate fee in that, and so therefore making the cheapest possible swaps for the best user experience for the Dash user. And so things like that, I mean, it's a decision, and I'm definitely not saying it's the wrong one, for sure. But it does make it so that now if an organization like Dash Growth gets a bunch of money to promote a bunch of wallet downloads, and then now there's no possibility of income from that because we have to work within DCG's limitations. And so, for example, I would love to do other ways, put referral links for every single business on dash.org. I would love to do that and take the revenue from that to then continue this virtuous cycle of growth for Dash. But I don't think I have the ability to do that, unfortunately.
Why then would you pursue a route that you are admitting right from the get-go would be limited? Why would you not begin your own website, for example, so that you can have freedom with affiliates, freedom with content, even like with your own, email domain, so that maybe you wouldn't, I don't know, just I guess why start out so limited?
I have somewhat of the same question, and I'm kind of hearing two messages, and I'm wondering maybe if you could clear it up. One of you, either you Joel or you Marina. On the one hand, I'm hearing that the best way, in your opinion, to proceed is to have a fully market-based solution where you're directly connected with your consumers. Well, if that's the case, then
let me specify about that. The best way for purely growth is to have purely free market kind of system. Now, the growth does not, when you have something like Dash, it would maybe the focus to maximize that might not be 100% Dash. That's where it gets tricky. That's where we get to where the growth mindset for Bitcoin was Blockstream's bottom line. Unfortunately, that took that away from the interests of the rest of Bitcoin users, even though it was revenue positive, I guess, for that. So just that little nuance there.
Keep that comment up.
We're balancing two different things here.
Okay, so Halawi just says we need to progress to a revenue mindset instead of a public utility one. For example, no affiliate fees. That's so if that's the case, then why a treasury proposal in the first place? Now, I personally, we have different views on the treasury funding and what that should be used for. But it sounds like you're and I've noticed this over the past several months, if not more than that, it sounds like you're very on board with everything should be fee-based and revenue-based, and like zero inflation would be somewhat ideal. So why not pursue that instead? So tapping into affiliate fees and like affiliate links with all of the partners, and having 100%, or even just building a product that has revenue sources rather than treasury funding. So maybe you could just
absolutely.
Back and I don't know if that took away from your question, Amanda, or if
No,
it
oh,
helped
sorry.
clarify your question, or
No, I mean, I'd like to hear the answer to that. And then, yeah, my general question was just with what we've heard from Marina, that even the most basic things can take months to get through DCG. You know, if and when Joël and Marina are able to get something that might be, you know, say like revenue producing, and they need to say have a landing web page for that to direct people through, to get the click-throughs or whatever. If you have to wait 3 months for DCG to maybe put it up on dash.org, why the hell would you want to be in that situation? So yeah, please first Ryan's question about funding, and then mine about your web authority or lack thereof.
Well, on the second side of things, let me answer that in the reverse order. As far as being able to publish content on the page and the Twitter account and stuff, if that's not on the table, then just go home. I'm not doing this at all, right? That's kind of the job. If you're seeking to do a job, that is the job. And if we're hired to do the job by the network, that is the job we will do. And if that is not possible, you know, forget it, right? Now, that's a slightly separate thing from revenue, like affiliate links that give, or turning every link into dash.org to a revenue generator, adding an affiliate fee on top of Topper and Uphold and Maya Protocol and even CrowdNode, for example, like all these kinds of things. That's a different conversation there that basically, from my discussions, again, I have not just done this in a void. I have been in contact with DCG this entire time. It seems like the first is a absolute go ahead. The second is I don't think we should do that. So based on that, sure, let's go start with this. And so now to answer kind of Ryan's general point, this is where the narratives gets less simplistic, I guess. But the point with the Treasury and the DAO is collective money. It's collective money, collective decision making. Everyone, it affects everyone. When you pay through the Treasury, it goes from everyone, every holder of the units of Dash, because of, you know, inflation and or coin issuance. Let me specify. And it's supposed to be for the benefit of all of Dash. That's why if someone makes a risky proposition, the entirety of the network gets to shut it down. Because in a free market, that person gets to do their own thing, but also in a free market, that person finds their own money. We're talking about the collective money here. And so in terms of something that serves Dash as a whole, that everyone can sort of agree on, and, you know, let's just say, you know, the official website, which no one has called something else, the official website, the official Twitter, the promoting the wallets, all that kind of stuff, that's all a purely collective kind of use case as far as Dash is concerned, that I'm nonetheless trying to inject as much subjectivity, as much free marketness into as possible through the donation thing, and then through the matching grant for all the big ad campaigns moving forward. And so I personally
wouldn't kind of call donations a free market, any more free market than the alternatives, but go on. I consider this whole project a free market because it's all voluntary.
Yeah, yes. In the macro scale of all the different crypto, the ability to opt out of the system and not use Dash and use Litecoin instead, for example, yes. As far as like the built internal system, there's a little bit of a difference in the incentives. But so, and the point about like, why not just do a completely free market or completely business-like promotional thing? The answer is I am. The Dash community Twitter handle is monetized. It's funded. It pays a decent amount of revenue now. And I don't do that through mostly
Twitter? X?
Yes, the Dash community Twitter pays money, and I am in discussions of hiring people to help out with that project. The problem or the nuance there is most of the money does not come through the explicit Dash promotions. It comes through other things. And if we start getting, I've been meaning to turn it more crypto agnostic, so that I can grow it further and get more business from other projects or companies or things like that to actually run it like a business. But the problem is I've chosen not to yet until there is because right now with this no one's home thing, it's like the single most active, largest public voice for Dash right now. And we have one, and it goes to 0 as soon as I would rebrand this. And for example, there's been at least once, if not twice, crypto news articles have quoted that account as an authoritative source of Dash on, like, say, a delisting or a SEC case or something like that, because otherwise there was nothing coming from official channels on that. And so if there are once official channels, as they were, are up and running and Dash does have a public official voice, as soon as that's done, then I will definitely rebrand that account a little bit, still keeping very Dash, centric, but pursue more actual revenue and growth and hopefully hire some people to do that stuff. So that's the ultimate thing. The thing is that benefits that entity. That entity makes some of its money by talking about Dash, but not all of it. And it makes none of it from the Treasury and will not make any from the Treasury moving forward. But at that point, that's a different thing we're talking about. At that point, if I'm trying to purely run marketing and ad campaigns and stuff like that, I will do what I've been doing, which is do that for whoever. I'm concluding a grant with, or I am in the final stages of completing a grant that I had from the Zcash Foundation, for example, to run a monthly Zcash podcast. I'm wrapping that up. I'm not renewing that. But the point is, if you want this to belong to Dash, there is a certain amount of, that's why the Treasury exists, is for stuff that works for Dash, but maybe doesn't have a complete for-profit method. And the challenge in all this is there's kind of a nuance of for-profit good, for community also good, bad also. It's really hard from a very simplistic perspective to say, well, you like this one or like this. Actually, I think that the genius of Dash is that we can do both. I would say the genius of Dash moving forward is we can do both. We should run a lot of Dash like a business, but at the same time, running Ethereum like the business is why it does not scale, because so many layer 2s have gone and basically gotten execution sharding off of the roadmap so that their companies, let's be honest, that's what they are, can make money. And it's hurt the average Ethereum user. And that's the entire reason we have a Dash DAO to begin with. And so it's funny being like, going this whole like anti-collective funding or voted whatever path, because I do believe that that has a very important role. And I wouldn't say just important, but a critical role. That's if Dash Core Group, for example, or the Dash Core developers were entirely funded by donations or by outside business grants and interests, I would be freaking out. I would be very upset, because I've seen how this ends, and it doesn't end in me being able to live off of peer-to-peer digital cash. So we need that. I'm trying to solve the other problem, which I didn't know we had until like the last couple of years, which is, well, we need to have that connection to the free market. We've been building awesome things, maybe in Evo's case, way too slowly, but we've been building awesome things for no one to use. We need to solve the for no one to use part, still build those awesome things. And I really think we have an opportunity to do this now, or at least I have some ideas to try out before I'm ready to call it quits.
Yeah.
The term that came to mind as you were answering that question is a term that I've heard some people speak of derogatorily, if that's a word, but the term public-private partnership. And I thought that was actually, that was quite insightful, the way you described it. Thank you. I think I have one final question. We have gone over time, as we have done a few times in past Sizzle shows, and that is certainly the case today. And this question is for Marina. In Joel's past efforts, obviously, so much of Joel's work has been like, hey, has Joel's face on it? And also frequently in your work with DCG, Marina, a lot of your work had your face on it when you appeared on other people's podcasts, video casts, etc. What do you think is the right way going forward with Dash growth, provided obviously you'll be at least part-time funded the next 6 months and maybe even full-time, depending on how this proposal goes? How much of your efforts should have your and or Joel's faces on them versus not?
Yeah, I don't think personal appearances should hinder Dash growth success if it's funded. Oh, well, it's funded. And quite the opposite. I'm open to dialogue with other crypto players and enthusiasts, as well as inside and outside outside the Dash ecosystem. And I'm sure Joel is open too. And it's very good to, people should know who they are trusting their funds to. And I think the more we appear publicly on various podcasts and shows, the better. That's what I think.
Yeah, basically yes. But to add to that, like I have my own Twitter account, other presence and stuff is doing fine. I don't need any. I'm here to do a job, and the job is to grow Dash, to make Dash look better. Wherever my face and my story and everything like that can help grow that, obviously I will lean into that. Wherever it hinders it or tries to make it all about me or something, I don't need any of that. I'm not going to do that. And so, for example, social media posts, videos, all that kind of stuff, just, keep it generic, except where highlighting a face might help. And I would hope to not just highlight, myself and Marina, but I hope to highlight lots of different people in the Dash ecosystem. Of course, some of the developers, and of course, highlight, the Incubator, even though the Incubator has a show highlighting itself, I still believe that the Incubator does very valuable things that the whole of Dash should know about. And so every once in a while, I'd love to have spotlights on the two of you and Pete as well, and Mikhail and all the other awesome people. I'd love to put the spotlights on there. But again, not in a interest of let's serve the Dash community, but let's grow the Dash community. Wherever a face or a sentence or whatever can make Dash better, make it grow, that's what we have to focus on. And yeah, I'll be throwing everything I can towards that.
Okay. So in closing, I know that on your initial proposal requesting donations, you had outlined some donor benefits, like basically someone could be in your inner circle and receive like personal reports from you both on the work that you're doing. And given that your donation request amount has now been met, are you open to accepting additional donors who haven't yet donated and who want to be in that circle? And if so, how should someone go about that?
The answer for this proposal for now is no. We have met our goal. The idea behind it was to get everyone who believed this was a good idea to get on board and just promote it. And then now we have that circle of people who are actually invested in the project, actually care about it, who we can then have that relationship with. And then, of course, the rest of the DAO network, monthly updates, proposal updates, things like that. That being said, if this model proves to be successful, and not just a disaster, which I really think it will be successful, for future campaigns and things, I definitely want to do that. So, for example, when we go back to the hypothetical, like, let's just say I want to run an initiative for Italian users to try to grow the Dash Italy community, and the Dash Italian people donate to that. Or, for example, one of you is very interested in the Italian growth for some reason, wants to donate, and then there comes with that set of perks behind that thing. And so because of that, the thing is, donating at this point, there's only so much donor will, money, etc., in the community for the moment. And I know there have been people who've been like, "Oh, do you need any more donations?" And I'm like, I'm very happy to say we're all set for now, because Dash has a lot of growing. And if it's just throw this guy and Marina some money here and there, if that's all we have going for us long term, we're going to run into problems. So for people interested in donating to help the Dash grow, hold on to that, and there will be lots of different initiatives. Hopefully, some by myself, but not all. Definitely, hopefully not all, where we'll be able to pursue this model and kind of continue on going forward. And so, yeah, that's hopefully that answers the question.
Well, that is an extremely high quality problem to have. Too many people trying to give me money. How do I make them stop? Where do I direct them? Okay, very good. That is it for us today. Thank you, Joël and Marina, for coming on and answering our questions. We didn't get a chance to give a screen share of their current proposal, but obviously if you follow the Treasury, you will know that they have one. So we will bid you all adieu then. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Take care.